Welcome student to Kent Public High School and Boys College, Bhagat Colony Texla Kent. Subject Social Study, Class 6. Today we will start from chapter number 17, Weather and Climate. Topic Factor Affecting Climate. Teaching objectives are to introduce and clarify the difference between weather and climate, explain the factors that influence the climate of a place, explain why different places in the world have different climate. In a previous lecture, we studied the difference between weather and climate. So we will recapitulate the topic from chapter 17, Weather and Climate. Weather refers to short-term changes in the atmosphere. Climate describes what the weather is look like over a long period of time in a specific area. Different regions can have different climate, and we refer to these 3 decades averages of weather observation as climate normal. For example, in this picture, you can describe the weather and climate that affect the life and activities of people. So, weather is the condition of the atmosphere of any day, including the temperature, wind, cloud, and rainfall. Where a climate is the average condition of the weather in a place over a longer period of time, usually 30 years. So, we can determine it. So, how people live in the kind of crop that can grow in a place. It means that climate of any particular place is influenced by a host of interacting factors. These include latitude, elevation, nearby water, and ocean current and topography. So, vegetation and prevailing wind also include in this. So we conclude that what is the condition of Earth atmosphere at a particular time and place, while climate describe the weather condition in an area over a long period of time. But climate is usually determined by temperature and precipitation. So temperatures ranges are all the temperatures in an area from the coldest extreme to the warmest extreme, and they are used to describe the climate. And second one is precipitation. Precipitation patterns over a time rather than average precipitation are used to determine the climate. Our next page is page 73, factors that affect the climate. So the main reason for the different climate in different places is a temperature, a varying amount of heat received in a different part of the earth. So this variation in temperature in different places mainly depend on some factors. First of all is distance from the equator. So a distance from the equator shows make it colder. The closer you are to the equator, the better. So what is equator basically? Equator is basically the middle line of latitude. So you know that the sun hit the equator more directly, and what effect do you think this might have on the climate of the areas near the equator? Of course, places closer to the equator are hotter and more humid than other places on the earth, and also receive a more rainfall. So the polar regions are extremely cold with hardly any sunshine. So the distance from the equator affects the climate of a place. At the poles, energy from the sun reaches the Earth's surface at lower angles and passes through a thicker layers of atmosphere than at the equator. So this means that the climate is cooler further from the equator. Our next heading is distance from the sea. Distance from the sea when ocean heat up and cool down much more slowly than land. So this means that the coastal location tend to be cooler in summer and warmer in winter than places inland and at the same latitude and altitude. So that is why coastal areas are generally cooler than land bounded areas because the temperature of the ocean remain the same throughout the year. In summer, places like Karachi are hot during the day but generally pleasant in the evening because of a sea breeze. On the other hand, Lahore is bound by land on all sides and remain hot all through the day and night during the summer. So that is why Lahore remains hot and sunny throughout the summers because of being away from the sea. Same is the case with altitude. Altitude or height above sea level location at a higher altitude have colder temperature. Temperature usually decreases by 1 degree for every 100 meter in altitude. This means that coastal locations tend to be cooler in summer and warmer in winter than places inland at the same latitude and altitude. So that is why places located above sea level are cooler than places on or near sea level. In Pakistan, people often travel to Murray, Sawat, or other hill stations to escape the scorching summer heat because these places are located in the high mountains where the temperature is lower. Second, content review questions are here. What is the difference between weather and climate? What is temperature? What are the factors that affect the temperature of a place? These questions are your previous knowledge. So kindly students, write down these questions on your notebook and send in group within given time. Your today's assignment on your notebook is your long question answer. Question number 6. Do you think it is possible to grow mangoes at North Pole? So it is not possible. No, it is not possible to grow mangoes at the North Pole because mangoes need a proper soil, sunlight, and warmth to grow. So North Pole will not provide the right combination of factors for growing mangoes. Question number 7. Explain in your own word how each of the following factors affect the temperature of a place. Number 1 is distance from the equator. Second is distance from the sea. Third is wind direction. Fourth is altitude. And fifth is rainfall. As I discussed earlier, the distance from the equator shows make it colder. The closer you are to the equator, the better. So that is why places which are closer to the equator are hotter and more humid than the places on the earth. So that is why they also receive more rainfall. And a polar region are extremely cold with hardly any sunshine. Distance from the sea. The sea affects the climate of a place, and coastal areas are colder and wetter than inland areas. So clouds form when warm air from inland areas meet cool air from the sea. So the center of the continent are subject to the large ranges of temperature. That is why the coastal areas are generally cooler than land-bounded areas, and the temperature of the oceans remains the same throughout the year. But in summer, for example, like in Karachi, they are hot during the day, but generally pleasant in the evening because of the sea breeze. The movement of the earth when start at the equator where it is hottest. There are certain sea patterns of winds called prevailing winds, which mean the direction winds travel in the most in a particular places. Two things affect the direction: the earth tilts and the revolutions. So revolution of earth basically. So wind affect the climate when it is a travel over a particular features, land or sea, or from a particular direction. So places above sea level are cooler than the places or near the sea levels, which include in altitude. Last one is rainfall. So the temperature of a places changes significantly after rainfall. Just before the rain, it become hotter, humid, and still, and become pleasant after the rainfall. So places on near or very near to the equator experience this throughout the year.